guys, this is Edward Redux, and today I want to show you how good an iPhone is going to compare to many other cameras and camcorders from 2011 to 2023 and 2024, and even some cinema cameras and stuff. How good they are compared to an iPhone and even compared to each other, how much they cost and everything. This is just my iPhone 12 Pro, so it's about 5 years old now, and as you can see, my lights are not exactly at maximum, but they're not down here either, so this should be adequate for pretty much any camcorder or camera worth anything to take photos in. As we can see, my iPhone is working pretty damn well, and it can record 4K 60. And down here we can see there's a lot of noise, and if I zoom in, the quality gets even worse because I don't actually have a lens on my telephoto sensor, so this is about as good as the quality is going to get, and it's not too great, but it also could be a lot worse, and you can still never mind, something's off. There we go. Now I'm recording with my telephoto lens, and you can't even read the print, so this is effectively useless in the dark. Do not use the telephoto lens on your iPhone. You just zoom in with the main one. That's much better. This is shooting on a Sony camcorder from 2011, and as you can see, it has a pretty decent zoom. Can't really focus. Oh, there it goes. And this image is pretty noisy. Otherwise, I'd kind of compare it to the Canon R50 in terms of 60 frames a second recording quality, of which I did not test, but I can tell you it's awful. So here's the standard test, shooting in a low light area. As you can see, the image is very, very, very noisy. Zoom in. You can still kind of read the stuff if you zoom in on it. So technically this does do the job, but you wouldn't actually ever want to use this. Although this camcorder does have a built-in hard drive, and I plan to make a video on it someday. Now for a camera a little bit newer. This is a Canon camera. This is a Canon SX720HS, or IS, something like that, from 2015, 2014, something like that. It has 40 times optical zoom, which is insane, but you would never want to use this camera for video, as you could see. This is in the same lighting conditions as every other test, and it is truly trash, even though it is still in 60 FPS. As you can see down here, this is useless. You would never actually want to use this, ever. And it only gets darker when you zoom in, so you can't even read that text. It's not even going to focus on it. So yeah, this is just plainly useless at night, and it's close to useless inside, you know. Never buy this for video. It's only good for pictures and only when you use the flash, sadly. All of these videos will be recorded at the highest possible recording setting, at least the highest resolution with the highest quality, so no crop options for these cameras and camcorders, and with my lights at pretty close to full blast. Full blast isn't that much brighter, and to be honest, most rooms indoors are probably either this lit or less, so this is a good test to kind of gauge how great these cameras are indoors, which is pretty much going to be my entire use case, since pretty much all of them are going to either suck or be good enough outdoors anyway, which I will get to in the second half of the video. So here we go. This is a camera with a f1.8 prime lens on it, and I'm gonna just shoot down here because this is a pretty hard area for most cameras to get. This prime lens is doing okay because, well, it's an f1.8 prime lens. It's letting a lot of light in, so you can definitely read this if this wasn't shaking, because this is not really a good lens for shooting video, especially at 4K 30. But you can kind of read that if you know, halt the video, as that label says. So yeah. Also, the white balance is going a little goofy, so it's not the best, but I shoot on non-auto white balance usually anyway, so that's fine for me, but I can already tell there's still a lot of noise in this image. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, this is the Canon R10. Hello, this is the EOS R50, and this is currently shooting on a f4 to 6.3 zoom lens, so it's a 18 to 45 zoom lens, and well, this is 18 millimeters, so let's go over and do our test shot. So this is not letting as much light in, but most lenses are going to let this much in, or a little bit more, and there it is all the way zoomed in. You can still read the stuff, but you can tell that this image is significantly darker than it was, and it has a lot more noise in the image. The R50 seems to have worse noise in low light, and also the R50, which is, or sorry, the R10, which is right here and right there. This is the one I was testing with. If the R50 is this bad, I don't even want to know what the R100 would be like. Also, this lens doesn't seem to have any internal stabilization. Actually, it might, but the R50 does not have internal stabilization except for the warp effect that the iPhone 4 used to do when recording video. It's truly awful. Now we're moving up in the world. This is a camcorder from Sony that used to cost about $1,200. Now it only costs about $900 due to it being absolute kind of junk. But as we can see, this does record in 4K 30, and well, you would hope so for $1,000. And well, it seems to be able to focus decently well, and this camera does not shine outdoors. However, it kind of does shine indoors in moderately lit environments. However, there's way more noise than I would like, and the image isn't as clear as I would like for $1,000. And compared to an iPhone, this kind of gets crushed, but let's do our normal test here. Zoom in a little bit. This only has a 20x optical zoom, but it's still more than many of the other cameras in this list here. And we can still read the text here, but of course the image does get darker and darker as we zoom in. But the stabilization of this camcorder is absolutely amazing, and I've yet to meet anything that can do this. I'm shaking the camera right now, like very vigorously, and it is not shaking in the video almost at all. And that's really substantial to me. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend this camcorder for $1,000. I have much better options in this list for just above $1,000. Actually, a little more than just a little bit, but enough yakking. Let's go on to those options. This will be the second to last camcorder in this list. Alright, here we have my second favorite camcorder in the world, the Vixia GX10, which can shoot in 4K 60. This is the only camcorder I am aware of that was sold at one point in time for consumers that can do 4K 60 unmatched. Of course, this camcorder is about 8 years old. This is from 2017, so as we can tell, the video isn't exactly stellar. It seems to be having some white balance issues, but if you get one that wasn't afflicted with that, which 2 out of 3 that I've had were, then, well, let's do our test and see how it goes. As we can see, the colors aren't very good, but that's just because I don't have the white balance set up for manual right now. This is in full auto mode, and if we zoom in, you can still read the text. It's still very clear, and there's quite a bit of noise. Something is clearly wrong with this particular camcorder, as well as the previous one that I had with the circuitry inside. I don't think these were meant to be kept for very long. I don't think these were designed very well, but I mean, if you're on a budget and you need a 4K 60 camcorder with good stabilization, like I'm shaking the camera right now and it's definitely not, oh, there it goes, but yeah, nothing more, then this is not bad, and it works excellently outdoors and in decently lit environments. It just does not work very well inside, at least in low light environments. Okay, here we have the Panasonic Lumix S5 II. This is the second best camera I've ever used in my entire life. Let me just turn off the zoom lock. And this is recording at 4K 30. This camera can do 4K 60, however I will not be showing that because it is a crop sensor for that, and the image would be a little bit too zoomed in for me, so it's quite useless to me. This camera can also shoot in 6K, however I've messed with all the settings in the manual movie mode, so and that's the only mode I can shoot 4K 60 in, so in auto mode, 4K 30 is about as good as you can expect to reasonably use for pretty much everything. But as we can see, the image is very sharp, and these are the same, recording settings as everything else, just fully auto. No manual settings here. You can see all the cameras that I've already tested. And let's do our low light test. This camera can shoot amazing low light if you make it. I mean, right now, the zoom isn't very good because it's only 24 to 105, which is not even, I don't even think that's a 5x zoom factor, but this is like one of the highest zoom lenses that are available. But as we can see, there's Not a crap ton of noise. I can see a little bit on the screen, on the tiny camera screen here, but this camera does have a fan as well as the GX10, so those two cameras will be able to record for forever, and in a minute you'll see why that's a problem. Also, I should also mention that these cameras, this is the R50, the Canon R50, and this is the Canon R10. All of these cameras, if you record for 40 minutes or longer, they will overheat and not allow you to record anymore, and you'll have to wait a half an hour before you can start recording again. And for not even doing 4K 60 in 2023, that is quite awful. And in 2025, you'd have to be out of your mind to get one of these for that. So yeah, just don't. Just pay about twice as much for the camera itself, which is kind of what I'm filming on right now. This is what you'll get for about twice the money. Lumix S5 II. Very, very good camera, and not too bad of a camcorder either. Alright, here we have the first actual good 4K 60 camera that is in this lineup, and I have a zoom lens on it. It's only 24 to 105, so not even 5x. As you can see, it's keeping the image sharp, and it's able to focus that close. Zoom out again, and the image is sharp, and this is actual 4K 60 that isn't being cropped. It's using the full sensor for that, and the image is nice and clear, and this actually looks slightly better than the most expensive camera in this lineup, but that's just because it's for a different use case. It's just more of a normal picture camera as opposed to a cinema camera, but if you zoom in here, let's do our test. The light test, this does absolutely amazing, although the biggest zoom I've seen for these lenses, 24 to something, is 24 to 240. We'll take a look at that in a minute. This is just a 24 to 105 f4 lens. Also forgot to mention before that this camera, the Lumix S5 II, with the 24 to 105 lens, its f factor is, I think, f4 all the way. Yeah, f4 all the way, as you can see right there. Yeah, this camera has some trouble focusing. There we go. So, yeah, f4 all the way. So that's not bad, but also not that great. This is f4 all the way as well, and I can see a little bit of noise, but yeah. So take of that what you will. This is about a $3,000 camera with a $1,000 lens on top of it. But excellent low light performance. Alright, now we're pulling out the big guns. This is the Canon EOS R5C, and this is the camera with the f4 to f6.3 zoom lens, and it's a zoom capability of 24 to 240, so only 10x, but it's good enough for most purposes. However, I wish they made lenses that were better than this, had much higher zoom ratios, but anyway. This camera has excellent video quality. This is the best camera I've ever used in my entire life, especially for video. This is actually a cinema camera, so normal consumers weren't meant to own this, and it's even more exacerbated by the fact that this camera is actually in manual mode right now because it doesn't have an auto mode. You can turn most of its settings to auto mode, but it doesn't have an auto picker like this does. It's not focusing. There we go. It doesn't have an auto picker like that does. And yes, let's do the low light test. Actually, I have to zoom in, and then I have to manually turn up the ISO. And yeah, it's pretty noisy, but that's just because this area is pretty dark, and because my shutter speed is actually too high. This is recording at 60 FPS, and so it's 4K 60, and this camera will never overheat because well, there's a fan in it. So there you go. So there's your test, and this is about how it looks like in real life. And actually, if I change some of the settings, I can change it to about what the EOS R6 II would be picking up. Turn that down a little bit. There you go. So this looks a lot like the EOS Canon line in terms of what the colors and the depth of the colors and what it's actually picking up. So this is not how it looks in real life, but this is more accurate to what these would be picking up. And like I said, with these cameras, these will all overheat. This camera will actually overheat in about 40 minutes as well, recording at 4K 60, so it's about as useless as these are, and about as bad as they are, and about as not worth buying. However, if you're just taking pictures, you might as well just spring for the extra money for the Canon R5C, which is what I'm using right now. It only costs about $3,400, and this costing $3,000 to record for 40 minutes, and with the R5C having twice the photo resolution, like 48 megapixels instead of, you know, the 20 or 24 that this has, and you can record infinitely using the power adapter, this is a much better option. The R5C is almost a perfect camera. Sorry about this, I really do need a shower. But honestly, if all you want is decent video, you can just use your goddamn iPhone. Of course, it's gonna smooth a lot of shit out, and it's definitely not raw, but it's good enough for most purposes, and outdoors you might not even notice the difference. In fact, some of these cameras actually perform way worse than an iPhone outdoors. I mean, here's a clip of my dad shooting with an R10 or an R50, which pretty much have the same sensor anyway, and yeah, it's not great, and if he had been shooting on an iPhone, it would have been much higher quality than it was. Everything is just fuzzy, it looks like crap, and that comes straight from the camera at, I think, 220 megabits H.264. So yeah, that is not worth $600 or $800 or $1,000. That's not even worth $300 for a camera that can produce that crap. You might as well just buy an old iPhone 8 for $300, and you'll get a better deal, and you'll get more storage, and your camera won't overheat in 40 minutes producing that trash. So yeah, don't buy an R50, don't buy an R10. For God's sakes, don't buy a fucking R100. Or sorry, R100. If you're gonna buy a camera, shoot for something a little bit higher, because you will be happier in the long run if you save up your money, maybe save up twice as much, and maybe you buy up a Lumix S5 II for twice the amount, or even a Canon GX10 if you're planning to shoot outdoors. That produces excellent quality outdoors. And maybe even an R5C if you're ambitious enough. So yeah, this has been Redux. Thank you for joining me for this camera test.